And we are joined now by the immortal Hulk Hogan on AM 1420, The Answer. Hulkster, thanks for the time, brother. How are you?
Well, you know something, Bob and Seth, that music is still playing wide open because what's old is new again, brother. And the new crop of Hulkamaniacs have learned from their parents about the trading prayers and vitamins and my real American beer. And guess what, dude? Cleveland was off the chain. When I hit Cleveland, it felt like I was getting ready to slam that no-good stinky giant again. Right there in Cleveland, brother. How you guys doing today, man?
We are great, man. I can't believe I beat you to the brother, by the way. I called you brother before you did
me.
Awesome.
That's called gimmick infringement, brother. That's gimmick infringement of the highest level.
Well, I do apologize for that infringement. Hey, can I take my vitamins with the Real American Beer? Can I do it that way? Can I?
You can.
That'd be a good way to wash them down?
Yeah, I've known a lot of wrestlers that never even had a drink of water, and they would drink their vitamins with beer and whatever else they could get their hands on. But yeah, you can pull that one off. I wouldn't advise it. You could pull it off, I'm sure.
I might do that. Hulkster, the reason I wanted to talk to you so badly, in addition to just being a Hulkamaniac from way back growing up as a kid, and I just, like everybody, I idolized you and everything you did with your messaging. But now I just kind of want to lay this out. This is related to the beer. For almost 50 years, with the exception of the NWO years, you did the Real American thing. Your song, your persona, your feuds against Iran, with the Iron Sheik, with the Soviet Union, with Nikolai Volkov, the Iraq, when Sergeant Slaughter turned traitor, and General Adnan and Hussein and whatever. You've been America first for decades, professionally and personally. Is that what drew you to Milwaukee? And the Trumpomania endorsement, the America first thing against all of the enemies?
Well, it was such a weird situation because I was like most people, in America, I was kind of like being silent. And for me, that was like being a coward, and I just want what every American wants. We want, safety, and, we want to be able to afford food and gas and have a quality of life. And in the last, years, four years or so, it's changed a lot, and this country is not what it was when I was growing up, and I was a Trump supporter because I've known him since WrestleMania 4 and 5, and we rented the Trump Plaza for him for WrestleMania 4 and 5. He's always been a great guy. Might be a little arrogant, might have an edge to his personality, but he's really kind and really good to people. Even the Make-A-Wish kids, man, he'd spend time with them, and I learned a lot from him, watching him touch him and hang on to him and praying with him. I was like, man, this guy's for real. So I was silent, and I was what I would call a coward, not speaking up. And then I started thinking, the way this country is for my children and their children, there's going to be nothing left, and everybody's been demonizing Trump in the news, and they're all saying, oh, he wants to go back to, the old America. Well, no, he doesn't. He doesn't want to go back to the old America. He wants America the way it should be, the way it really should be. So I was kind of like hiding out and being silent. I was watching TV, and all of a sudden when I saw what went down when they tried to assassinate him, it just got me really mad. And that's what keyed me. I said, you know something? I can't be silent anymore. I can't be a coward anymore. Somebody needs to start stepping up and helping to save this country, because there'll be nothing left for our children, And at the end of the day, that's what got me fired up, was that situation there.
Hulkster, when Michael Jordan was at the peak of his popularity, there were a lot of left-wing groups, a lot of black action groups who wanted him to be more vocal on behalf of black issues and Democrat issues and so forth. And he famously said at that time, the reason why he didn't do that stuff is because Republicans buy sneakers too. He didn't want to alienate anybody. So how much danger, how much damage could you be doing to your own brand and all of the products and the Hulkster stuff that you promote right now, being willing to come out here and, as you say, not be a coward and speaking out in a way that might alienate some of the people who might buy your stuff?
Well, that's standard mid-card thinking. That's not main event thinking. That's standard protocol, that you don't want to split your audience. And I get that on a business level as far as generating revenue and cutting off your hand or your toes, yourself and not making your brand 100% for everybody. But this is bigger than that. This is bigger than just, my brand, and I hate to even say it, but the name is so big, and Hulkamania has been around for 40 years in everybody's home on an international swing arm. I've been in Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Malaysia, and there may be some people there that might not know Michael Jordan, and no disrespect, but they know Hulk Hogan because I've been in their living room for 40 years every weekend, and that's a lot more than Mike Tyson or any other professional athlete who's seasonal. At the end of the day, it was a calculated risk. I knew what I was doing, but the name has been around so long. A lot of people, will look past that. They're so loyal. They look beyond that. And, I can come to different towns and different blue states, and the reception is no different than a red state. They all understand Hulkamania, the training pairs and vitamins. I've oversaturated the marketplace all these years, and if you're 90 years old now, you were probably watching me when you were 50 because I've been around 40 years, and there's so much loyalty that goes into this, and the fans have stuck with me through thick and thin, that was a calculated risk. And, I just had a feeling that with this real American beer that I've got out there, is it going to damage that brand? Is it going to hurt us? There may be some people that don't buy the beer because of my political statement that I made, but I had to because this country needs to stay on track because, if we turn into a communist country or socialist country, this party's over for our children. So I understood what I was doing, and on a normal business day, if I was being silent or, like I said, being a coward, or I was worried about splitting my audience and the amount of money I was going to make, I wouldn't say anything. But this is a much bigger situation than that. So that's why I spoke up. But I did have all those concerns you're talking about for sure.
We're talking to the immortal Hulk Hogan, maybe the best moniker of any wrestler of all time, because you are. I mean, long after you're gone, people will always remember Hulkamania, and I think that's true. And the fact that you are almost cancel culture proof is really, really important right now because, they're coming for you. I mean, the radical left is absolutely humorless. They flipped out over a joke you made about body slamming Kamala Harris, and they're screaming about, "Oh my God, that's misogynistic." What are you kidding me? You're talking in wrestling. You're a wrestler. You're talking about wrestling parlance, and that means defeat her. And they take that and they come for you. And I really hope you are right when you say that you're pretty much cancel culture proof.
Well, I didn't really say that.
No, you didn't. I said it. I said it, but you're right. Loyalty is there. Right on, sir.
The fans are so loyal. They stick with me through thick and thin. And, talking about that situation with body slamming her, I also said I was going to body slam the Empire State Building. So let's categorize this. And come on, guys, tongue-in-cheek, hee-hee, ha-ha. But they turn it into some crazy, demonic, horrible, evil violence against women. And it's not that way at all. It's just the people that are judgmental and pretty much, had nothing else to do with their lives. They pick and choose their moment to hang on to a little bit of momentum, might make them a little bit famous for a while because they've interacted with a certain celebrity and they get their 15 minutes of fame. But that's not the truth. I'm dealing with the truth. And when I joke around, should I have said it? No. Is it part of who I am? Yes, because I'm like an old scarred up seal on the beach with a bunch of scars on me. I've made a lot of mistakes. And people relate to that. Other people in life have made the same type of mistakes I've had. And sometimes it makes you more relatable. But I am not an Empire State Building, like I said. So, wow. Let's get real about this.
You almost did when you slammed Andre. One of my favorite interviews that I saw you do, or it was a speech or whatever it was, but you were talking about you gave like a play-by-play. You wrote it all out on a yellow notepad, like a legal pad, exactly how you wanted and hoped this thing would go, but you didn't know if Andre would go along with it. I won't ask you to repeat the whole thing, but that was one of my favorite things, especially when when he yelled out to you, right before the end of the match, slam. And can you just kind of recount some of that?
Well, yeah. Well, if you really understand the art form and you really have timing and instinct and placement and you have balance, you don't relate on a script to go through a match. I mean, I see a lot of guys, they'll sit in catering and they'll talk 4 hours about their match. And I go, what are you guys talking about? Oh, well, we got 3 minutes on TV to wrestle. And I said, well, you've been talking for 4 hours. What's there to talk about? Andre taught me to listen with my heart and my instinct and my ears to the crowd. And you have to appease the crowd on whatever level they have connected with you when you're in the ring. So at the end of the day, Andre taught me, I would say, Andre, what are we doing tonight? Don't worry, boss. I'll tell you in the ring. The bad guy leads the match like the man leads the dance, when you're dancing with a woman. Mm-hmm. And so Andre would lead the match. The bad guy always would lead. So I learned and listened from him. So at the end of the day, we were going into WrestleMania 3, and Andre wouldn't tell myself or Vince McMahon if he was going to let me win. And I was going, oh, my gosh, is he going to be in a good mood or a bad mood? Because if he's in a bad mood, it's a bad day for everybody. And so Vince came to me, and he goes, I'm going to go talk to Andre, and I need to know what you want out of the match. I said, well, no, brother, I'm not going to say a word, because if Andre knows we're talking about this match ahead of time, he will slaughter me out there. And Vince goes, well, just make some notes, and then I'll have a reference to talk to him about. So I took the yellow legal pad out, and I wrote down verbatim, move by move, step by step, 2 steps to the right, throw the punch, block the punch, pick me up, slam me, step on my back, walk over me, yell at the crowd, slam me again. I wrote the whole thing out. I said, Vince, if Andre finds out I did this, he will slaughter me out there. So Vince went and talked to him, and Andre didn't nod his head one way or the other if he would agree, and he wouldn't tell us who was going to win the match. And as soon as I went out there, he started going through the motions of exactly what I had wrote down. So I knew right then Vince had got to him. So we went through the whole thing, but he still wouldn't tell me who was going to win or lose. So after he called slam and I dropped the leg, I thought he was going to kick out, and he didn't. And that rascal, he passed the torch that night to me.
That was an amazing story. And what I found also amazing, Hulk, is your compassion and respect for that man, because his back was in such an extraordinarily painful situation for him. When he was bear hugging you, I think you talk about how, he would normally kind of like toss you around and ragdoll you, but you didn't want to make him do that because of how bad his back hurt, and you stood the entire time and allowed him to rest and hold you that way just because you were so concerned about his own pain.
Yeah, well, he had just had some major back surgery months before, where over in the UK they had to make the table, make the equipment, because he was so large. And at the end of the day, if you rewatch the match, I kept him really close to the ropes because he couldn't get up on his own in the middle of the ring. So anything we did, such as 2 or 3 seconds into the match, when I tried to pick him up to slam him and I fell backwards, I made sure we were near the rope so he could grab the rope and pull himself up. And I kept him in the corner the whole time when I was running into him and trying to attack him. So, he did the wrestling business a huge favor by participating in that event. And he didn't have to put me over. He could have beat me and I'd have been just fine. But because he let me win, he put a rocket launcher on me. And, it took him about the first 8 years to pretty much mold me, because I was young and I was huge and I was crazy and I thought I could beat anybody. And he just beat the crap out of me until I started behaving, and then we became best friends once he explained and taught the business to me. But it took me about 8 to 10 years to catch on.
We're talking to the immortal Hulk Hogan this morning on AM 1420, The Answer. Hulk, and I want to get back to the beer in a minute here, too. I want to find out how you came dialed in with that. But how closely do you watch the business now? Are you glued to the TV on Friday and Monday nights, or what's your watch? Go ahead.
No, I record the stuff, and, there's certain wrestlers that I love to watch, like Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns. I love to watch Brock when he's on there. I mean, there's a bunch of wrestlers I like to watch, but, I really, know so much about this business that it has to be very compelling and very organic and very realistic to hook me now. And some things are just fluff, and time filler. And it's hard to watch some of that stuff when I know it's pre-contrived and rehearsed out. And for me, that doesn't work. But, I'm an art form guy like Randy Orton. He's one of the best I've ever seen as far as going out there with his feel and his timing, So I record it, and then I pick my spots and watch the stuff I really like.
How much do you miss it?
Oh, I miss it, the hell out of it. I mean, every night. I mean, I'm 71 years old. I did it for 40 years. So every night about 8 o'clock, I get this churning in my stomach and this churning in my heart. And in my head, it starts churning. I call it turbulence, because I'm so used to going out there. If I'm stressed out about the kids or about the wife or about finances or anything, I would go out in that ring and air my shorts out. And for 20 or 30 minutes, I would totally physically destroy myself, where I would be sweating through my socks and my boots and everything. And it's almost like a cleansing. You go out, it's like a spiritual cleansing to go out there. And it's the only place when I was in the ring when I was totally present, totally in control and totally present. I didn't worry about bills or the wife or the kids' problems or anything. So that's why when, they would say, well, you get 20 minutes in the ring. Can I have 30? Can I have 35? Can I have 40? I just love being in the ring because that was the only time I felt really alive.
Hulk, when guys like me, I'm in my mid-50s now, talk about the golden days and, your days, we always talk about who is better then versus now. And then also the 90s crew with The Rock and with Stone Cold and these guys, and everybody puts together their Mount Rushmore. You ever do that? Who's your four faces, the faces of professional wrestling in Hulk Hogan's mind?
That's tough. That's a tough one. We actually had this conversation yesterday in the car. That's a real tough one because you got a lot of new guys that are making their mark, and you got a lot of new guys that are coming into their own. But there's a difference between a main event guy and an attraction. An attraction sometimes can get bigger than the company. An attraction sometimes you could say Hulkamania is coming to Australia in 8 weeks and not even have an opponent and not even have a card underneath and sell every venue out. Sometimes an attraction gets so big and so powerful, you have to harness that energy. Otherwise, it could flip-flop your company. So when I look at the Mount Rushmore, I look at guys that are attractions, and the number one guy that would go on Mount Rushmore would be Andre, without a doubt. He was an attraction. Another guy that, and this is not an ego thing or personal, I'm talking about the character, not Terry Bollea, the man, but the character that should go up there would be Hulk Hogan, because Hulk Hogan was an attraction, and he changed the wrestling business several times, ramped it up, changed it from beer and cigars and violence to entertainment. So you'd have to put Hulk Hogan up there because he could draw money with anybody. The third person I would put up there as a huge, huge attraction would be Stone Cold Steve Austin, because he was an attraction. He was a new guy that came along. He just captured the business and he changed it in his own way. The fourth position is a really tough one because you've got Piper, you've got Macho Man, you've got a whole bunch of guys to fill that bill for the fourth spot. But the one guy I would have to go with, because I did and drew more money with him than anybody, he was the guy that lived the business 24 hours a day. He was the guy that was a constant, that if I was hurt or if I had to go do a movie for 6 months, I could put the belt on him and he would keep things consistent across the board. The fourth guy, and this is a tough decision to make, would be, the Macho Man, Randy Savage. I'd have to put Randy up there.
Wow, phenomenal. You were very close to mine. That last one, and by the way, I had Undertaker up there because I don't know why. I kind of forgot about Andre in the way you just described him as an attraction. You're right, but I had Undertaker, and then the other one, I had you and Stone Cold, and then the other one I had was the Nature Boy, because Ric Flair, I think he changed the game as well. I think the two of you guys were the most influential in the growth of, pro wrestling from being, Mid-South or up in Connecticut or whatever to being an international phenomenon. I thought you and the Nature Boy were the guys.
Yeah. Well, Rick came into his own, several years later. He spent most of his time in that southern belt of wrestling, Crockett, in Atlanta and stuff. And you just don't get that international exposure, across the board when you're down there. But for years, we were trying to get Rick to come up, and then when he did come up to the WWF at the time, he became a major international star. So I would agree with you, but, it's a tough call because I also have to relate to people that worked in the ring, and nothing against Rick, but they wouldn't let him work with me as much as we wanted to work together. So it was very limited on how much me and Rick got together, because if Rick and I got together, it got to a point where nothing else really mattered. People wanted to see the Hogan Flair stuff, you know.
Oh, my God,
so
yeah.
I just have to go with what got me to the dance and who I worked with consistently. And even though I never worked with Stone Cold from a distance, I saw how he was very competitive when I was working with WCW and changing the whole landscape as the bad guy.
Well, you and Stone Cold have something in common. He came up with his own beer. He called them Steve Weisers. You actually came up with your really own beer, Real American Beer. How'd you get into that?
I was at a convention, and, you know, when I'm by myself, I spend a lot of time with the fans. I shake their hand, I look them in the eye, and I love to find out what their story is, where they're from, how come you've been with me for so long, you know, because some people have known me 30 and 40 years, and if you're 90 years old now, you probably watched me when you were 50. So I love talking with the fans, and all of a sudden I read this guy's nameplate, and it said, past Blue Ribbon Vice President. I went, oh, my gosh, my dad used to drink that beer. And we started talking about beer and endorsements, and I said I never really thought about it because of the training prayers and the vitamins mantra. But now that I'm not wrestling, you know, full-time, not wrestling at all, really, I still work with WWE constantly, but I said I'd do a whole bunch of other stuff. And I said I see this open lane now because Bud Light had a marketing plan that crashed and burned, and nobody's filled the slot. So I told this gentleman I've got an idea that, you know, started from the wrestling business because, you know, we're supposed to take care of each other in the ring, but if something happens, somebody gets a nose broken or teeth knocked out, sometimes instead of suing each other or getting a lawyer, we'll go back out there and settle it in the ring. Well, for me, that was a little edgy, you know, and I had to work every night. So I said, hey, man, if we've got a little problem, let's sit down and have a beer. Let's talk about it. Bam, that spawned the idea. I said, the Republicans and Democrats don't even talk. So my idea was bigger than politics, and I said, it doesn't matter your political affiliation, what your sexual preference is, what the color of your skin is, or who you are, or where you're from. We're all real Americans. And I said, I got an idea for the beer that's going to be America's beer, and we're going to bring America back together one beer at a time with Hulk Hogan's Real American Beer. And just the idea, it took off. I didn't even have the beer made yet, and it just took off.
Awesome.
Everybody wanted on the team. Everybody wanted to participate. And we're just making the tours now state by state, and it is amazing the momentum and how much ground we're gaining, and the amount of beer we're selling is insanity. It's crazy how this thing's taken off.
That's awesome. I love to hear it. I love to see awesome American success stories like that, and I love that you have that idea. Hey, Hulk, I'm told I only have 2 minutes left with you. The biggest Hulkamaniac I know is the guy who got you on the air with me today. My producer, Seth, is wearing a Hulk Hogan T-shirt right now. He brought his lunch today in a Hulk Hogan lunchbox. I want Seth to get the last question. Seth, take it away.
Look, I have no real question to ask you other than tell you that I cried in 1990 when you lost to the Ultimate Warrior. And I wanted to know how you separate, like, fans from reality. I mean, how do people treat you differently because you are who you are?
Yeah, they do, brother. And, you know, when I come home, the rag comes off the bald head. You know, there's no red and yellow in my house. I'm not like most wrestlers. There is no picture of me in this house. There are no title belts. There is no memorabilia. There's nothing in this house. I don't have my office full of title belts and crap like that because I can separate Terry Bollea from the character. The one problem is, though, brother, if I walk outside to get the mail, you know, the mailman goes, hey, Hulk, how you doing? So I can't answer him like Terry Bollea. Go, oh, good morning, sir. Have a nice day. I have to go, oh, what's up, brother? How you doing today? Yourself. You know, so I have to give him a little Hulk Hogan all the time. The moment I walk out the front door, people don't call me Terry. They call me Hulk. So, but I can separate it, you know, and it's pretty cool.
That is a phenomenal way to wrap up this conversation. Hulk Hogan, thank you for bringing Hulkamania to Northeast Ohio, taking it nationwide with Real American Beer, and thank you for the memories. You literally have inspired millions, maybe billions of people if you look at it at a global scale. Hulk Hogan, thank you for doing this, man. We appreciate you very much.
All right, my brother. Thank you so much.
Weekdays at 9 a.m. on The Answer.